Merry Christmas in arrears and Happy New Year 2020. Welcome to the agenda. My name is Lasha Kingsley. Today on the program, we are receiving the national president of the Progressive Movement Political Party, former MP for Wuri Center, who is equally heading the list for MPs in the upcoming municipal and legislative elections in Cameroon for Douala 1 and Wuri Center. We will be right back after this short break. Honorable Jean-Jacques Ikindi, welcome to the agenda.
Thank you for inviting me, and I just say hello and Merry Christmas to all televiewers.
We're very glad to have you despite your tight schedule. I must confess, it's not been easy having you. We've been struggling for a very long time, but thank God we have you today.
Oh, it's not of any kind of desire coming from me, but I'm quite busy due to all the responsibilities I have to carry out. And I'm glad, too, to come to your TV and try to chat with you. I hope that the televiewers will be happy with what we are going to deliver.
Certainly. You were a parliamentarian between 2007 and 2013, and you lost the seat in the National Assembly during the September 2013 parliamentary election after failing to win a seat. Now you are seeking another mandate in the upcoming election. How ready are you, and do you have what it takes to challenge your opponents?
It took, it will take, 7 years since I lost my seat on 2013. And again, I'm coming back to a fight in 2020. So I had 7 years to prepare myself. I think that I did it well, and I believe that it will be successful this time. We took the time to study why we didn't succeed last time, in what domains we have to improve, and I believe that we are ready to go for this fight.
And so when you say you believe that you are ready to go this time around, what is it that you faced as challenges when you were a member of parliament between 2007 2013? And what do you think you are bringing in this time around?
First of all, I was not defeated because of what was my record in the National Assembly. Everybody knows what I did in so many aspects. But I lost in the elections because maybe I didn't assess quite well the strategies of my opponents. They use a lot of money, a lot of bribery, a lot of corruption, and I was not prepared for that. Now I'm prepared. This is why I'm quite sure that I will be more proficient. And second, conditions has changed. I know better my opponents. Basically, my main opponent will be CPDM on municipal elections because SDF has been disqualified, and CPDM and SDF on legislative. I know they quite well. They are incumbents. It means that they need to show and defend a balance sheet. It's not easy knowing what they have not done. And we are prepared to ask them really to let people know what they did, and from what they did, what they intend to do in the future. At that time, we'll see how it is. On the other hand, we are really prepared to propose to Cameroonians real expectations concerning what they want from municipality and what they want from the National Assembly. So by this confrontation, by this double challenge, I think that we'll be successful.
Honorable, quand on est député de la nation, pas juste forcément député
De la circonscription.
de la circonscription, mais avec la crise anglophone, je vois comme vos collègues, vous êtes en train de partir dans une élection alors que la situation dans la région du Nord et du Sud n'est pas favorable pour une élection.
Et je voudrais attirer votre attention sur quelques petites considérations. Nous sommes dans une élection de circonscription. Au niveau municipal, il y a 360 circonscriptions, dont un certain nombre dans la zone anglophone. Et au niveau législatif, il y a une centaine de circonscriptions. Ça signifie que les élections peuvent très bien se passer dans une circonscription et ne pas bien se passer dans une autre circonscription. La meilleure preuve en est que lorsque les élections auront eu lieu, il y aura le contentieux électoral. Je suis persuadé qu'il y aura des candidats qui vont demander l'annulation des élections dans certaines circonscriptions. Si le Conseil constitutionnel leur donne raison...
Pourquoi vous ne demandez pas qu'on annule tout?
Mais précisément, je suis en train de vous expliquer que ce sont des élections de circonscription. Ce n'est pas parce qu'il y a des problèmes dans une circonscription que vous annulez tout.
Mais vous êtes député de la nation. Quand on peut député, c'est pour la nation, pas pour une partie du pays.
Non, précisément parce qu'on est député de la nation, on est aussi député des partis qui sont en crise, d'une part. Et d'autre part, il faut revenir sur ce que sont les élections. Les élections sont le processus par lequel le peuple renouvelle des mandats. Donc ce n'est pas une préoccupation individuelle ou partisane, c'est le peuple qui a besoin tous les 5 ans de dire « voici ce que je délègue pour me gérer ». Et parce qu'il y a des problèmes dans une partie, il faut que tout ce processus soit annulé. Mais qu'est-ce qu'on va dire au peuple? On va lui dire sur 306 circonscriptions, sur 360, il y a peut-être des problèmes dans 30. Et parce qu'il y a des problèmes dans 30 circonscriptions, annuler tout, ne renouveler plus, non, ce n'est pas très sérieux. Et je ne crois pas que de cette manière-là, le peuple sera mieux géré. Maintenant, je comprends ceux qui, par la force des choses, ne peuvent pas participer à ce processus. Mais il ne faut pas qu'ils aient le désir que le Cameroun arrête de tourner. Il y en a qui reprochent au président Biya d'être resté trop longtemps au pouvoir. Est-ce à dire que tant qu'il y a la crise, tout président en poste doit rester au pouvoir parce qu'il y a une partie qui ne pourra pas voter? Si tel est le cas, mais les gens resteront au pouvoir ad vitam aeternam. Non, tant que le processus doit être pris en charge. Parce que c'est très important pour un peuple de déférer, de transférer sa souveraineté à des institutions. C'est la vie même du peuple qui en dépend. On ne peut donc pas, parce qu'il y a des problèmes, arrêter ce processus en disant tant que ces problèmes ne sont pas résolus, on ne peut pas le faire. Ce ne serait pas juste. Et un des cas les plus récents, c'est le Pakistan, qui vient d'avoir lieu. Pendant les élections pakistanaises, il y a eu des attentats extrêmement sérieux dans certaines parties de ce pays-là. Les élections ont continué dans les autres parties. On a différé celles qui devaient avoir lieu dans les partis en crise. Et puis maintenant, ils ont pu reprendre le cours. C'est très dangereux pour un peuple de ne plus pouvoir s'exprimer parce qu'il y a des problèmes.
Mais quand on voit la condition, est-ce que c'est favorable pour telle élection? Are the conditions really favorable for such an election? Since it has to do with the grassroots.
You know, when, for instance, you're playing football, it can rain a lot. The conditions may be awful, but all depends on the referee. The referee can say, no matter how much the rain is falling down, you have to play. Or he can say, there is really so much water that we can no more play football. But once the referee whistles, you have to go. You are not the one to judge if the conditions are good or not. You are just a player.
Happens to be the player.
Let me finish. You are just a player. The referee, when he says, come back and start playing, you can tell him, Mr. Referee, but there is too much water. I say, okay, I ask you to play. And you go and play. We are in the same condition. We are not the one to judge if the conditions are good, then we go. If they are not good, then we don't go. We believe that they did it I know that the process is very important, and okay, we hope that it will be done properly.
Sometimes back, you were spotted at Salle des Fêtes with His Eminence Christian Cardinal Tourmi for an initiative campaigning for back to school in the two English-speaking regions of the country, as well as bringing community, what you call inter-community dialogue, which was not given the needed support by the government. Are you disappointed in the government?
You know, the government is committed with ruling the country. We are not. Sometimes we give our opinions, we undertake initiatives, but the government still rules the country. When Cardinal Tourmi and myself decided to take an initiative for peace, it was because we didn't see what the government is doing in order to stop this war. And we said, okay, maybe we can be useful by taking this initiative. But when the government declared that to bring peace in the country, he is going to convene a major dialogue, we said, well, we are happy with that because it's his duty. And we don't want our initiative to interfere with the government endeavors because it would have been helpless. And we just stopped everything and decide to participate to the government initiative. Now, we were not the one who decided and gave the frame of this major dialogue. The government did it. Of course, we did not agree perfectly to what had been done, but it's quite normal because it was the government. If the government would have said, Mr. Ekinde, Cardinal Tourmi, please, I ask you to draw a frame for dialogue, it wouldn't have been what we have seen. But he didn't do that. He gave this responsibility to other people, and we accept that it may be different. Now we went there and we tried to participate. We hope that the result will be...
That takes me to the next question, talking about the result, what you guys decided at the major national dialogue. I'm talking about the special status. You people decided at the major national dialogue to be given to the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and Parliament just endorsed the special status by coming up with a code on decentralization. So what is your own appraisal on this code and the content of the special status?
Yeah. Talking about the results, in our way of thinking when we took the initiative, we were focusing on peace. And we were expecting this issue of peace to be of paramount importance in the major dialogue. But when we saw the frame of the dialogue, we saw that you have 8 commissions. Some were talking about education, judiciary, bilingualism, reconstruction, diaspora, which can be related to peace, but not be the bottom of peace. It means that the government was expecting many objectives to be attained, while we were only focusing on peace. So the results have to be appreciated according to the expectation.
So maybe is there peace? Is there peace now?
For me, there is no peace because peace is an agreement. You cannot declare peace. You just see and you just appreciate peace because you have the belligerents who came together and signed a peace agreement or a peace treaty. As far as you don't have this type of agreement, you cannot know. It means that all of a sudden, in a way that you were not expecting, you see that again the war has burst out. You can't have any focus of that as far as peace is not signed. So we cannot say that peace is there. In our opinion, before you come to a peace situation, the belligerents has to discuss, to negotiate. You cannot obtain peace without any negotiation. Even if you have a stronger, this has to be written in a treaty and say, okay, I recognize that this is the new order and I will abide to it. From that time, we have peace, which is not, even that way is not evident, because you can have some people who revolt against your signature and decide to continue war. But at least you have to get that. As far as we don't get it, we cannot claim that peace is there. It has to be established. And in my opinion, the government must meet with people, Ambazonians or whatever they want to be called, to discuss with them, to come to a peace agreement which will be respected by everybody.
So as somebody who believes that power should be decentralized and people should manage their own affairs at the level, at the local level, my question to you now is, when you look at this code on decentralization, does it answer to the question of the separatists or those who are in the bushes?
In my opinion, the situation is evolving step by step. You had a step of administrative disturbances. They asked the governor, the DOs, the police, the gendarme to try to tackle the situation and to bring back administrative order. It did not succeed. Then they took another step. We sent soldiers, because people are dying in the bush, you have fire, destruction of property and people. We need a stronger force, BIR, or of the soldiers, in order to confront those who has guns in the bush, hoping that the soldiers will rapidly bring the situation to calm. It did not succeed. Then the president imagined a major dialogue where all the sons of this country will sit together in order to discuss and find a way of bringing peace. Some did not came and it did not succeed. Nevertheless, during this dialogue, some measures were not decided, but proposed to the president. The major dialogue didn't have the capacity to decide anything. They just
but
have
when you listen to the
recommendation.
opening speech of the chair,
Yes.
Prime Minister Chief
Yeah.
Dr. Joseph Diongute, he
Yeah.
said, and I quote, "The future, what future do we want to leave behind for our children? So
This
we
is
are the
true.
ones to decide."
Yes, he can say that as a people. But as far as the dialogue is concerned, he said clearly that he is an envoy. He'll gather all the recommendations and give them, forward them to the man who sent him. And that one will have to decide. The major dialogue has no way to decide anything. There were no way to enforce any of their decisions. So once this is said, some people brought ideas, many ideas. Some of them were contradictory, but since they did not have to decide, the man in charge will decide. And he decided to implement a special status for Northwest and Southwest. This is another step. For me, we have to take advantage for any step forward. This one is better than just
Maybe
seeing
it's a step
soldiers.
towards the wrong direction. You still take it?
I don't think that it is going in the wrong direction. It may be insufficient, but it's not going in the wrong direction. Because since Northwest and Southwest has been given a special status, it means that they has considered their real and effective specialities. There are some how different from the other Cameroonians. This is why they are looking for situations and institutions which will be different from the other one. And it's good to consider that somebody is different when he's fighting you. Now, the question is, do these measures enough to bring peace in the country? This, I'm not the one to respond, but the people concerned, I mean ambassadors, are better placed than me to give the answer. But what I can consider is that the government considered that the Anglophone, maybe by culture, maybe by history, are not exactly the same as the Francophone. He took it in consideration. He considered that some special measures have to be implemented. He did it. And he considered that once these measures are implemented, we'll be in peace. Now, the answers I have read here and there don't give me the assurance that all these people are now defending or implementing peace. What I can say, as my opinion is concerned, is that you have to take advantage on each step. For me, we have to go to federalism. Since the beginning, we have said that. But we are not in government, but by now, we are not convinced that this is the best way.
Certains de vos collègues, ils ont peur du mot fédéralisme.
Oui,
mais je ne sais pas pourquoi. Je
ne sais pas pourquoi ils ont peur, mais c'est un tort. Parce qu'il faut aller étape par étape. Maintenant, les anglophones ont obtenu un statut spécial. La confrontation n'est pas finie. Politiquement, nous devons continuer à lutter jusqu'au fédéralisme. Et lorsque, en dernière étape, nous aurons le fédéralisme, là, on pourra demander à chacune des parties, messieurs les sécessionnistes, si vous dites que dans leur grande majorité, les anglophones veulent la sécession, allons au vote. Votez dans le nord-ouest et votez dans le sud-ouest pour voir ce que veulent vraiment les anglophones et dans la paix. Si c'est le fédéralisme qu'ils veulent, qu'on a une majorité qui vote pour la sécession, il n'y aura pas de problème. Mais si la majorité vote pour rester ensemble, vous aussi, laissez que les choses se fassent. Parce qu'au Canada, ça a été fait. Quand les activistes indépendantistes faisaient campagne, ils disaient que tous les Canadiens voulaient être indépendants. Et quand on a voté, la majorité était pour que le Canada, pour que le Québec reste dans le Canada. On a fait la même chose en Écosse. En Écosse, il y en a qui ont dit, bon non, nous voulons sortir du Royaume-Uni. Mais ils avaient déjà un degré de liberté qui permettait que les Écossais votent pour leur futur. Et quand on a voté, les Écossais ont dit non, finalement, nous préférons rester. Donc, créons des conditions dans lesquelles le vote peut avoir lieu dans les meilleures conditions. Et dans l'état actuel des choses, il n'y a qu'à travers le système fédéral que ça peut avoir lieu. Parce que du point de vue administratif, il n'y a pas de circonscription qui peut adresser des problèmes spécifiques. Il n'y a que dans le cadre d'une fédération. Donc, militons pour qu'il y ait le fédéralisme. C'est ce que nous demandons, notamment à tous nos frères anglophones. Mettons-nous ensemble pour avoir le fédéralisme à 10 États. Une fois que le fédéralisme est là, on va demander que l'on puisse voter.
Ils sont en train de demander 2 États, mais vous parlez de 10 États.
Non,
vous allez les convaincre comment?
Attendez. Non, le problème est il faut que chacun reste dans la logique de sa demande. Pourquoi, moi, anglophone, je refuse que les francophones aient 8 États? Pourquoi? Pourquoi est-ce que moi, je veux bien avoir mon État, mais je dis que les autres n'aient pas 8 États? Pourquoi? Il n'y a pas de raison. Contente-toi de ton État, et je ne suis même pas sûr que si on demande au Nord-Ouest de voter s'ils veulent un État unique avec le Sud-Ouest, et on demande au Sud-Ouest de voter s'ils veulent un État unique, je ne suis pas sûr que la majorité sera de dire nous voulons un État unique pour nous. Donc laissez les gens s'exprimer, nous sommes dans la liberté. Et ensuite, il y a une autre chose qui est très claire, c'est que dans les dispositions des constitutions fédérales, les modifications d'États peuvent avoir lieu. Ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire qu'on peut avoir 10 États, et le Nord-Ouest et le Sud-Ouest disent, nous, on veut un État. Votons pour être un seul État. Personne ne va leur interdire de faire ça. Qui peut le plus, peut le moins. Donc on nous laisse d'abord faire les 10 États, et si les anglophones veulent avoir un seul État, bon, qu'ils disent, voilà, nous voulons un seul État. Mais il faut voir que historiquement, ça n'a pratiquement jamais produit. Le Nigeria est parti avec 3 États, maintenant ils sont à 36 États. Les États-Unis sont partis avec 13 États, maintenant ils sont à 51 États. C'est très difficile de vouloir contraindre les gens en disant, bon, il faut que nous ne fassions qu'un seul État. Pourquoi? Laissez-les décider librement. Voilà ce que je peux dire à mes frères francophones et anglophones.
You think that you're equating the former British Southern Cameroon as a region? That's what you're saying, that they are clamoring for a separate or an autonomous or federal state. They should allow other francophones to have their own separate
federal, not separate.
Federal,
Yes.
federal state.
Yeah.
So, are you equating the former British Southern Cameroon to a region? If I permitted to ask.
No, you know, if you take
historically, they look at it historically.
We are not talking about history. We are talking about politics. Yeah, talking about politics. And our question is how to rule the best possible this country. Not to go to history, say...
but history guides the path.
But, yeah, but history may be a parameter. Now we have to ask the real question now. What is the real question? How people, actual people, how do they want to be ruled? In my opinion, they want to be ruled in a federal state. This federal state, some people are used to be in a region, and it's not very complicated to transform this region into a state. Now, if you want to go to another way of thinking, some people in Sanaga Maritime are asking for a region concerning only Sanaga Maritime and Nyoekele. Some other ones are looking for a Bamund region. If you go into this thing because history or because culture, you wouldn't get out from that. You wouldn't get out because it's quite complicated. Some people are wanting a tribal state. So some are asking for Grand Sawa state, going from Kribi to Mafe in only one state. What is all this? No, we are in politics. In politics, we are talking about realities, not culture, not history, not desire. And as far as administration is concerned, the actual regions have the means to be ruled selfly. And this is what we are considering. Now, the other people, they want to consider the history. Yes, if you consider history, we have to go to Nigeria to ask them that, okay, Northern Cameroons, historically, they were Cameroons. Let it come back to us. We have to go.
They decided to go.
They decided to go. They decided to go. This is the way. They decided to go, but go and ask them if they are ready. And we are not quite sure because when they took it, they did not have 2 regions. They declared for administrative commodities that were northern and southern. But when we split Cameroon into French and English, France and England, you don't have 2 splits. You have one Cameroon went to England, the other Cameroon went to France. And each of them decided how to administer this. And some of our country was taken by France and Equatorial Guinea and so on, because when you look at our map, when we were one under German rule, it was a big Cameroon. So if you want to go for history, you'll never stop. You'll go upper and asking and requiring. Let's start with what we have.
Honorable, I'm mindful that you're very disgruntled for the fact that members of parliament were not part of the major national dialogue which held in Yaoundé from September 30th to October 4th. This time around, you want to go in as a parliamentarian. So what is it that you want to change this time around to make sure that the present situation that we find ourselves in the Northwest and Southwest, in Cameroon as a whole, we come out of this particular situation?
You know, when you consider the capacity of a member of parliament who is in opposition, he cannot change too many things. But he has at least two ways. The first is to ask the National Assembly to abide to the law and constitution. This he can do it. Because in many circumstances, they are not abiding to the law. Because CPDM has a majority. And they feel themselves able to vote anything. You cannot vote anything. You can only vote what you have been missioned to do. So the second thing is that you have to express what is wrong in the decision they are taking. Expressing it means that you are sending messages to the people. So the people will have to judge if the people who have been given sovereignty are handling it correctly. This is what we can do as opposition members of parliament. But you cannot go there and say we are ready to change anything. We don't have any power to change. The way of a National Assembly to function is that you go for vote, and if you have a majority, they apply the decision of a majority.
Which
and
means
since
that you opposition, you are not doing your job at the grassroots level to be able to get the majority. And
no, don't say that. Don't say that. First of all, if you are fighting for elections, you need means. And the opposition don't have means. This is why it is so difficult. All the means are concentrated in the hands of CPDM, who took the power and who is using the power for their own sake, for their party. The Constitution has said that if you are president, you cannot be president of another entity, another public entity. And I had a claim during elections of 1992, I think. Yes. Well, I said that Mr. Biya is president of a republic. He has no capacity, abiding to the law, to be at the same time president of CPDM. He cannot, due to the Constitution. Of course, they rejected my complaint. But what does it mean? It means that he has the possibility to take quite all the means of the state and to use them for CPDM. And no party can win against the state. No one. Look at what is happening here. They have to select the candidates of CPDM. They set up commissions. Inside these commissions, you have the chiefs. The chiefs are not...
They are traditional rulers. You don't have anything to do with politics.
But they did it, and they were the one to choose and back these people. When CPDM is meeting, the DOs are very aware of what is happening. And if necessary, the DOs intervene. It means that the state is behind CPDM. Therefore, no one party can defeat CPDM as a whole. No one.
So why go in?
Because...
It means you surrendered ahead of time.
No. Knowing that the battle is difficult doesn't mean that you don't have to go to the battle. You have to go to the battle. Because the only battle we are quite sure to be defeated is when you don't go for fight. But if I say that no one party can defeat the state, but the people can defeat the state. So our major concern is to explain it, to go to the people, tell them, you are at concern, you are at stake. Let's come and support us so we can defeat these people. But if the people will say, oh no, it's not our business, it's the business of political parties, that, yeah, but quite sure that nobody.
In the Northwest, and what are we having today?
No, nobody did it in the Northwest. Nobody did it in the Northwest.
Stop and say the educational system is being
No,
invaded.
You know, when you look
by the Francophones.
Yes. Now, when you look at the way to get out from some traps, you have rules. The rule is that, okay, let's take the Southwest or Northwest. I'm sure that many of them were ready for federalism. But when it came to vote, they did not vote one party claiming federalism. If you do that, of course. But imagine, like for instance, in Catalonia, the representatives of the people in Catalonia voted for independentists. We claim that we want Catalonia to be independent. You have this type of things in Northwest or Southwest. They voted for CPDM. They voted for CPDM. So you cannot, after that, say that they did it, they wanted CPDM to go. No, they voted for it. In Southwest, quite 100% of the members of parliament of Southwest were CPDM. So they didn't take the right path in order to change or to confront this system. I call it a state party system where the state is just backing one party in order to obtain the things. Now, I hope that with what we have experienced, because as far as the battle did not take place inside the institutions, because every member of parliament was CPDM, it took place out of the institutions, which means in the streets, in the towns, in the bush. Because no one was ready to defend this position inside the institution. We hope that now it will be different. But these people has to find the representatives able to talk for them, to defend their positions, and at that time the debate will be set up.
Honorable, let's talk a little bit about your constituency, where you are vying in for as MP for the second time. You were there up to 2013. Unfortunately, you lost in 2013, and you're coming back now. I go back to this same question again. What is the unfinished business that you want to finish this time around?
You have so many things to do. The Constitution of 1996 is not completely implemented. This is not a good thing. When we are talking about regions, since 1996, regions have not been implemented. If you take what happened since 1996 concerning municipal elections, the state, the central states, is just pumping the finance of the municipalities. You have what is called FECOM.
Which is in charge of councils.
In charge of financing council. But what happens? In the law, they declared that we must have solidarity of councils. And they took the liberty to take 10% of the council's finance to give it to the state, because the state says we have the one who collects
The money.
these taxes. So we cut 10%. And FECOM, in charge of distribution, according to solidarity, quote, take 20% of all the taxes collected, remains 70%. This is not acceptable. And the solution is the National Assembly, because you cannot do it in municipalities. And once you just distribute a council like Douala, you may have maybe 30% or 40%, it depends. It means that when you collect the taxes for Douala, Douala has in turn 14%. 14.
Too small. That's why
Because-
we have all the roads in Douala. They are bad.
Yeah. And what is this money doing? FECOM takes 20% of the taxes coming from all the 360 councils in the Cameroon. What for? FECOM doesn't give any aid. FECOM lends the money and you pay back with interest. Because they say that this is solidarity. No. We have to go there and destroy the system so the council can breathe. They can breathe and they can develop. This is one of the aspects. But the other aspect is peace. We must come to a long-lasting peace. And the National Assembly is concerned, because the National Assembly has to control the action of the government.
But unfortunately, you don't have that power to do so. Bills passed in Parliament, the President of the Republic must enact the bill into law, which means that anything that goes contrary to the government cannot be enacted.
Think of one special aspect: the people and their opinion. Bills are bills. But when you have a possibility of controlling the action of a government, it doesn't mean bill. It means how good
La
is the
question c'est
government.
comment?
Oui,
Vous allez contrôler ça comment?
mais pas le contrôle de l'action du gouvernement. L'Assemblée a le pouvoir de contrôler l'action du gouvernement. Et l'action du gouvernement, ce ne sont pas les lois. C'est de dire, je voudrais poser une question orale à Monsieur le ministre de la Défense. Monsieur le ministre, venez expliquer à l'Assemblée où en est la situation de guerre au nord-ouest, au sud-ouest.
Même s'il manque, vous allez savoir comment.
Non, le problème est, quand vous êtes un responsable, vous avez des informations. Donc quand il ment, dit Monsieur le ministre, on est vraiment désolé, mais cette situation n'est pas celle que vous dites. Vous dites qu'il y a la paix. Nous sommes désolés, mais il n'y a pas la paix. Voilà, pas plus tard qu'hier, les situations qui sont posées. Alors dites-nous, qu'est-ce que vous, le gouvernement, vous envisagez? And don't figure that they are robots or people who have no brain. They know that they have to answer. Because when they'll go back to this region, they'll tell them, okay, how can you go there and say that everything is quiet while you know perfectly that this is wrong? You have to answer. So it's not an easy thing, because some people want us to believe that the government is overpowerful. The government is not overpowerful. The government is a government of opinions, which means that they have to consider the opinion of the people. And if they are really in a bad situation as far as the opinions are concerned, they have to take care. When this happens to you, the president will say, okay, I sack this minister because he's unable to handle the mission I gave him. And I take another one. But this one, he doesn't want to be sacked. So he tries to improve. We cannot say, therefore, that it's useless to say anything. No, it's not useless. When I was in National Assembly, I saw sometimes they were not just applying what was expected as far as budgets and financing was. They used to change the dotation of the accounts of the budget. I said, no, you have no right to do that. If you want to change anything, you have to come back to the National Assembly with a modified bill of finance. But you cannot by yourself change what you want the way you want. And sooner or later they changed it. So the Assembly has a real capacity to do something, but of course, he doesn't have the strength to modify the majority. As far as the majority is the CPDM, it will be CPDM's policy.
So what is the way forward?
The way forward is, first, elect me. This is the first thing to do. And once elected, this problem of peace, no matter the way you turn it.
Mais vous avez essayé, on vous a bloqué.
Oui,
Cette
non.
fois-ci, vous allez faire ça comment?
Mais il y a une chose, c'est que tout évolue. Il n'y a que le mouvement qui ne change pas, comme dit les Chinois. Ça signifie que le gouvernement a essayé des solutions. Pour l'instant, elles n'ont pas amené la paix. Il ne peut donc pas rester sur place indéfiniment. Il est obligé d'avancer, de chercher d'autres solutions. Et nous avons toujours dit que quel que soit le cas, la solution c'est que les belligérants négocient. Ça peut prendre du temps.
Mais ils disent qu'ils ont pris les armes contre l'État.
Non,
Ils ne peuvent pas dialoguer avec les gens qui ont pris l'arme contre l'État.
Non. Il y a un certain nombre de choses qu'il faut prendre en considération. Lorsque vous êtes le seul à réclamer quelque chose, on regarde la loi et la loi vous frappe en disant que la loi ne prévoit pas que vous réclamiez ça. Lorsque c'est le peuple entier qui réclame la même chose, la loi ne peut pas s'appliquer au peuple entier. Parce qu'il ne s'agit plus d'un comportement, d'une opinion individuelle. Et là, c'est le même processus. Lorsqu'on a dit tel a pris les armes contre l'État, on va le traduire au tribunal antiterroriste, tu as pris les armes contre l'État, etc. Mais lorsque c'est 1000, 10 000, 15 000 Camerounais qui ont pris les armes contre l'État, le tribunal n'est pas prévu pour juger 15 000 personnes. Ça devient un problème essentiellement politique.
Mais il faut des solutions politiques.
Voilà. Donc on ne peut pas continuer à dire ils ont pris les armes contre l'État. Ça, ce n'était pas la solution politique. C'était la solution individuelle. On a attrapé quelques individus dont on dit qu'ils ont pris les armes contre l'État. Mais on a vu qu'il y en a 1, il y en a 2, il y en a 10, il y en a 20, il y en a 30, il y en a 40. Tout le monde s'émeut. Même au niveau international, on s'émeut. On dit qu'il faut régler le problème. Et le problème n'est plus à régler dans le cadre d'un tribunal. Le tribunal juge la responsabilité individuelle. Et lorsque c'est le peuple qui l'exige, c'est qu'il y a anguille sous roche. Il faut trouver la solution. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle, généralement, quand on finit les négociations, même ceux qui ont été arrêtés dans ce cadre-là sont libérés. Parce qu'ils étaient les porteurs d'un message politique qui devait trouver sa solution. Et il faut à tout prix que le gouvernement comprenne qu'il s'agit d'une confrontation à caractère social et politique, et la solution sera là, dans le social et dans le politique. Je crois qu'ils l'ont compris. C'est du reste pourquoi on a fait un statut spécial, en indiquant que, bon, il y a quand même pas mal d'avancées dans le statut spécial.
Mais le problème, c'est le contenu.
Oui, mais même dans le contenu.
Le contenu pose un problème.
Non, le contenu posera toujours des problèmes. Parce que le contenu ne peut pas être parfait pour tout le monde. Mais il faut être objectif et constater que le contenu a certaines avancées. Il y a même des avancées que moi-même m'étonnent. Parce que je ne les ai pas encore vues dans aucun autre pays.
Tu as raison.
Par exemple, la possibilité pour la région spéciale, en cas de discorde, de faire référence à des instances extérieures au Cameroun pour régler cette discorde. Ça n'existe nulle part. Aux États-Unis, s'il y a une confrontation, c'est la Cour suprême qui règle. Mais aucun État des États-Unis ne peut saisir une instance extérieure parce qu'elle est en désaccord avec le gouvernement fédéral. Bon, mais c'est une avancée. Je ne sais même pas si ils se rendaient compte de ce qu'ils faisaient quand ils ont adopté ça.
Peut-être c'est le mot fédéralisme qui était difficile
mais
de prononcer parce que les gens n'aiment pas entendre le mot fédéralisme.
Non, mais même le fédéralisme ne va pas aussi loin. Parce que ça devient une affaire de souveraineté. Ça veut dire que le Cameroun est prêt à se soumettre à un recours dans une autre instance à partir de certains de ses citoyens qui sont organisés dans une région. Je ne sais pas s'ils ont fait ça comme ça, mais bon, c'est dire qu'il y a des avancées. Quand ils prennent des dispositions selon lesquelles les ressources naturelles, le produit des ressources naturelles dans ces régions-là va également pouvoir abonder les budgets de ces régions. Ça n'existe pas ici. Chez nous, ça existe dans d'autres pays, au Nigeria, etc. Mais ça n'existe pas. Il n'y a pas les ressources produites par la région du Vouri. On ne va pas en prendre une partie pour abonder le budget du Vouri. Mais là, cette disposition, elle existe déjà dans le statut spécial. Donc, c'est pour dire qu'il y a beaucoup de choses qui ont avancé. Donc, il ne faut pas jeter le bébé avec l'eau du bain. Il faut voir que, bon, ici, c'est possible comme ça, ici, c'est possible comme ça. Et surtout, pour nous, les fédéralistes, voir comment on peut utiliser ce statut spécial pour évoluer vers le fédéralisme. Parce que ce statut spécial, il n'est rien comparé à une véritable situation fédérale. Mais profitons de ça pour faire avancer.
Avant de terminer, honorable, parlons un peu de la question de la monnaie vient d'être adoptée par certains pays d'Afrique de l'Ouest.
Oui, quelque chose m'embête, du moins 2 choses au moins m'embêtent. La première, c'est que la monnaie est un élément technique qui est très important pour le bon développement économique. Quand je dis technique, j'oppose technique à politique. Ce ne sont pas les préoccupations politiques qui doivent présider à la gestion de la monnaie. Or, quand on écoute Macron et Ouattara, on a le sentiment que c'est beaucoup plus les ressentiments politiques, la perception de la France par certaines élites africaines, les diatribes contre la monnaie dont on évoque l'historicité, le nom, etc., qui ont prévalu à cette décision-là. Et c'est embêtant. C'est embêtant parce que, quel que soit le cas, une monnaie, pour maintenir sa parité, son taux de change, doit s'appuyer sur d'autres monnaies. Et la Fed Bank aux États-Unis, elle a des euros, elle a des yuan, elle a des yens pour garantir le dollar. La Banque centrale européenne, elle a des dollars, elle a pour garantir l'euro. Une fois que vous avez ces réserves, vous les mettez quelque part. Bon, on les mettait contre rémunération au Trésor français. Maintenant, compte tenu de toute une série de considérations, on a dit que c'est de l'esclavage. Quand les États-Unis ont des euros dans leur Fed, dans leur banque centrale, est-ce qu'on dit que les États-Unis sont inféodés à la France? Quand la Banque centrale européenne a des dollars dans son...
Mais le point qui se pose, c'est le taux. C'est le pourcentage.
Non, mais il est rémunéré. Lorsque vous gardez vous-même vos devises ou les devises étrangères, vous ne les rémunérez pas. Vous les gardez, la Chine a plein de dollars dans ses coffres, elle ne les rémunère pas. Mais nous, on a cherché un placement à rémunérer. Bon, il se trouve que c'est la France, il se trouve que certaines conditions ont joué pour que cette rémunération intervienne. Maintenant, on dit, OK, on n'en veut plus. On dit, très bien, il faut tout de même préserver ces réserves, mais la plus grande difficulté, c'est que la France affirme qu'elle va continuer à garantir le change de cette nouvelle monnaie qu'on appelle
Mais ils ont
ECO.
remis les réserves.
Oui, mais
ça va se passer comment?
Voilà le problème. On ne voit pas la Banque de France en train de supporter une parité fixe sur l'ECO si l'économie de ces 8 États n'est pas capable de soutenir cette monnaie-là. Ça signifie que s'il y a des dévaluations, la France va simplement gérer les dévaluations. Et va dire à l'Afrique de l'Ouest, bon, voilà, moi j'ai un afflux de...
So it's a trap. It's a trap for those countries.
Yes, it's a trap, and I don't know what they are going to do, how they are going to do it. But when you look at quite all these African countries, be it Ghana, Nigeria, no, Côte d'Ivoire was in Frank's CFA zone.
Okay.
Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Guinea, and so on. Sometimes they had a lot of depreciation. They had a lot of inflation in Zaire and so on. So really managing a currency is not an easy thing. Sometimes everybody wants to sell his Naira because Naira was valuing nothing. And sometimes again it's strong and so on. Now, when you have it for you alone, you can handle. But when you have it for some other countries like in the block. Same zone.
Yeah, a block.
Yes, what are you going to do?
Very difficult. So what are you advising countries of CEMAC region, sub-region?
Take time. Wait and see. Let's see how it moves over there. Especially we must have answers from this guarantee.
We want you to leave the France CFA zone. You are being exploited by France.
Yes, but what were they giving has an alternative solution, a strongly documented alternative solution. I don't know. Because when the countries got their independence, gradually they removed the French administrators from the central bank. It was not easy. And later on, they called again the French inside the board of this central bank. We have French in the board of the Bank of Central Africa, and you had French in the board of West Africa. Now, we decided to remove these French people and to handle it by themselves. But why did they come first? Because they needed technicity and they need appropriate and experts in order to help, not to betray the money. Now we are still in the mood where we have sensors and we have in the central bank to check that the things are moving correctly. Now, people may say, okay, we are just slaves of France and so on. It's not a matter of slaves, it's a matter of currency. As I said last time, the countries like Cameroon are hyper-centralized, which means that you have only one power. To designate or nominate a director or a president of central bank, it has to be a presidential decree. And I have never seen in a country like ours where I am designated by a presidential decree and I have the capacity to tell to the president, I'm sorry, what you're asking me, I can't do it. But this will be the problem of the people who are handling the currency.
Okay. Honorable, I'm sorry we have to end here. Thank you so much for accepting to be part of this edition of the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for talking to us. It was a pleasure having you on the program.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you. And hello, televiewers. See you next year.
Thank you.